Peter Chang here for Macho Cave TV, and today we're going to review the RPM front A-arms. And RPM's arms are made in the US here, and they're made from a very durable, flexible nylon. In comparison to my SC10 arm, we could see that the RPM arm is a different design, and it's actually seems a little bit bulkier, but when you put it on the scale, the weight is a little bit lighter than the stock part, which is on my SC10. I'm replacing the arms on my SC10 because one of them broke off in a race, in a short course race. So during the race, one of the racers, his name was Brian, suggested that I should get an RPM arm because once I do that, I wouldn't have to worry about that problem, is what he said. So took his advice. Went down to the local hobby shop, picked up the RPM front A-arm, and what the hobby shop guy said was that because the hinge pins are different, or RPM uses a different hinge pin system, we needed a different part. So when you get the arms, RPM arms, you need to also pick up a GT2 hinge pin system, and sometimes they're not in stock all the time. It's a totally different model than the SC10, so you just need to be aware of the fact that if you do pick up the RPM front A-arms for your SC10, you also need to pick up the GT2 outer hinge pins for this to work. And I'm just removing the front chassis plate, and in this video, I'm also using the combination of Hoodie and Weehaw Allen wrenches. I love the two Allen wrenches for different reasons. Right now, I'm just removing the other side of my stock arm, and this arm's actually good. It's not broken or anything, but because I'm installing the RPM front A-arm on one side, I just want to make sure that everything's properly balanced on the other side, so everything is symmetrical. Here we have the RPM part, and I just need to remove my stock part, and just pulling out to take a look here. My left hand's actually holding the stock part, and then the right hand's actually holding the RPM chassis brace, the new part. And we see that the RPM part looks slightly more bulkier, but once again, it's weight-wise, it's slightly lighter. So here we go, just trying to get the RPM front A-arm in place. And what's interesting is with the RPM part, it's kind of a tight fit. It's kind of a struggle for me to get the outer hinge pins to go in, but they do go in, and when they do fit in, it fits in rather well. It's just so you know, if you're doing this for the first time or aren't used to RPM parts, the fit is a little bit snug, but it is very durable. Here I'm showing you the stock hinge pin and the difference between the stock hinge pin and the RPM part. We see that the stock hinge pin is slightly longer, and the G2 hinge pin is that the RPM part requires is actually smaller. Here we have that screw, so we just screwed that in. RPM uses a different hinge pin system to keep the pin captured in there. And we see that my shocks are going to need a nut. I recommend the 4449 nut part. And so here we go, just showing you like the little trials and tribulations of installing this outer hinge pin. We see that you have to be a little bit more patient with it. You may want to grab the needle nose pliers to get this part to properly align. If it doesn't align correctly, you can't get it in, and everything snaps apart. I'm kind of a clumsy mechanic, so you guys are probably more dexterous with this, and also it was harder to film and also build at the same time. So apologize for the autofocusness on this part. There we go. Got the camera back in focus, and pretty much just make sure you get everything aligned. If you have trouble putting this part in, you might want to take the stock hinge pin just to make sure everything is aligned, and then try to push it in. Once to kind of loosen everything up a little bit, then take the actual part and push it in. But this is how I eventually got this part to fit, was just pushed it in through the needle nose pliers, pushed it in a few times alone by itself just to try to get parts to fit. Everything is just a little too tight in there to keep everything in there. But once you do have everything in line, you could grab your Phillips head. In this case, just use a hand tool to drill that in. The RPM front A-arms are just really durable and great for all around bashing around the block. Ow, just hit the tree. But thank God I'm using the RPM front A-arms. It's really durable, and my SC10 is still running. Thanks for watching, and remember, everything matters.